On February 20th, 1258, a heavy carpet was unrolled on a field outside Baghdad to serve as an executioner's shroud. The man placed upon it was Al-Musta'sim Billah. He was the shadow of God on earth and the undisputed ruler of the Islamic world. Yet, in this moment, he was a helpless prisoner of the Mongols. Mongol superstition forbade the shedding of royal blood upon the earth. To bypass this, they rolled the caliph into the carpet and ordered their cavalry to ride over him until he was crushed. The execution of the caliph marked the end of the 500-year-old Abbasid Empire. A global superpower that had stood for half a millennium was erased in 13 days. In the 13th century, Baghdad stood as the undisputed center of the world. Its crown jewel was the House of Wisdom, a sprawling library and research hub where the knowledge of the Greeks, Indians, and Chinese was synthesized into a single intellectual tradition. This was the birthplace of algebra and modern optics. It was a city where physicians performed advanced surgeries and astronomers mapped the stars centuries before the rest of the world. By the time of al-Musta'sim, the city's glory was a facade. The caliph was the wealthiest man of his era, surrounded by diamonds and gold, but he possessed no actual military authority. Relying on his status as a spiritual figurehead, the caliph believed divine protection rendered a standing army unnecessary. He assumed that because his name appeared on coins and in sermons from Africa to India, the world would naturally rise to his defense. In geopolitics, historical prestige and accumulated wealth provide no defense against an ascending military power. To the east, the Mongol great Khan Mungke ordered his brother Hulagu to march west and eliminate every power in his path. Hulagu began by destroying the Order of the Assassins. Their mountain fortresses, which had survived centuries of sieges, were dismantled and their members systematically executed. When Hulagu's ultimatum reached Baghdad, the caliph dismissed the threat. He laughed at the Mongol scouts and warned Hulagu that a united Islamic army would pounce on the Mongols if they stepped onto his soil. The caliph was living in a theological echo chamber. He failed to realize that in high-stakes diplomacy, military strength is the only recognized currency. The primary threat to Baghdad was not outside the walls, but at the caliph's right hand. His prime minister, Ibn al-Alqami, harbored deep sectarian resentments and had already begun a secret correspondence with Hulagu Khan. This chart illustrates the internal sabotage. Baghdad appeared protected by 100,000 troops, but Ibn al-Alqami convinced the caliph to cut military spending and stop paying soldiers. As salaries stopped, the military presence evaporated. Veterans abandoned their posts, leaving a skeleton force of only 20,000. On January 18, 1258, the caliph realized his error. Mongol arrows were reaching his palace windows, and the city was completely encircled. Fortifications offer no safety when the person managing the defense intentionally leaves the gate unlocked. On February 10th, Al-Musta'sim surrendered. As he watched from the Mongol camp, Hulagu ordered the immediate execution of Baghdad's entire political and intellectual leadership. The subsequent massacre claimed at least 800,000 lives. For the first time in 500 years, the Friday call to prayer was silent. There were no worshippers left in the city to hear it. Hulagu mocked the starving caliph by forcing him to sit before his hoarded gold and jewels. He asked why the caliph hadn't spent this wealth on swords to stop the Mongol advance. When the caliph blamed fate, Hulagu replied that the caliph's death was also divinely decreed. The Mongol army then targeted the House of Wisdom. They threw millions of unique manuscripts into the Tigris River, effectively erasing the accumulated knowledge of the previous 5 centuries. This destruction ended the Abbasid dynasty and permanently closed the era of Islamic scientific superiority. The fall of Baghdad triggered a widespread retreat from worldly politics into asceticism, even as a new, fractured caliphate emerged in Cairo. Centuries later, the modern state of Iraq was carved out of the collapse of the Ottoman Empire by British and French powers. This new state was built on a fragile foundation, with imported monarchs installed to serve foreign strategic interests. The following decades saw the region trapped in a cycle of Ba'ath Party coups and the rise of military dictators like Saddam Hussein. This period of instability led to the immense human toll of the Iran-Iraq War, where generations of soldiers were lost in a conflict of attrition. Further ruin arrived with the Gulf Wars, which devastated the country's infrastructure and left the landscape scarred by burning oil fields. 7.5 centuries after the Mongol siege, Baghdad continues to live in the shadow of this cycle of conflict. The Fall of Baghdad illustrates a persistent law of nature. When a civilization replaces strategic defense and internal cohesion with luxury and illusion, it risks the same total erasure witnessed in 1258.